Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Robb. I am the Seek and Find coordinator at the Southeast Kansas Library System. As a native Kansan, I just wanted to say welcome. I'm so happy that we're having this here, not just because it only took me an hour and a half to get here and I didn't have to get lost on planes and stuff, but I'm really excited everyone's here. So today I want to talk about displays. And this is Displays Revisited because it's a follow-up of Ed Veal's presentation back at Portland, the Portland Koha-Con, where he discussed using the course reserves module to keep track of displays in Koha. So I like that idea a lot, and I kind of just maybe overdid it. So Ed's modifications changed it in the OPAC for the patrons. I'm in a consortium of 49 libraries now, where I need it to be as simple on the staff side as possible so that there aren't any errors or anything. So I've done quite a bit of jQuery modification to make it more streamlined on the staff side as well as the OPAC. So I wanted to give some geographical context first. You've heard NECLs a lot throughout the conference. I'm from SDKLS, which is Southeast. So you can see on the map there, you're kind of in the NECLs area. And if you go down and over a little bit, that's where I'm from, the Southeast Kansas Library System. And then I just added some other landmarks on the map for you, for your awareness. So there are 4 consortia using Koha in Kansas right now. Mine is Seek and Find, the next catalog at NECLs. Michael manages the Pathfinder Central and CKLS, and then CanShare down in South Central is unique. The other 3 that I discussed are system services. So we, as the system center, administer the Koha installation. South Central has a library in Derby that really like that model, and he went out on his own and started it. So they're in parentheses because they're a slightly different structure from us. So now you know where I'm from, and again, welcome to Kansas. All right, so now the historical context of this presentation. So at the Portland Koha-Con, this bug was entered into Bugzilla. There was a lot of excitement about it. I think a lot of people were interested in the idea. You can go in and read the comments and the history on it, but it didn't really take off. So I'm here to try and rekindle that fire a little bit and see if we can get some movement behind this bug. So the idea basically would be to clone the course reserves module because it does more than we need it to do, but does the perfect thing for managing displays. And then have a separate display module so that you can both run course reserves next to displays. So take a look at that bug if you're interested in this after the presentation. Okay, and as part of my sales pitch, so I've been trying a lot. I'm a librarian. I'm not a developer. I'm not any of those things. I am a systems librarian that manages the Koha consortium. So I've been trying to bring more of the professional library literature into my presentations when I train my people. And I did recently do a presentation on displays. So I've pulled some of that in as well to try and convince you guys this is a good idea and we need this. And then we'll go through the benefits of tracking displays in Koha. I have some screenshots of my working example using course reserves. And then just some of the things I've run into. Yesterday, Nick was speaking to me when he said that sometimes we use things that not the way they're meant to be used. So I've found some things with the course reserves module that are a little problematic when using them for displays. So I've got that listed out as well. All right, so to start off, again, back with the librarian hat on, displays at their core are marketing. So they're there to show off what the library has and not just by way of materials. Displays show off what the library does. They're a way to promote core services. So like, for example, if you're putting together that banned books display, it's not because you want to show the banned books you have in your collection. Sure, that's great. but you're really promoting the freedom to read. You're saying reading is for everyone. Another example, if you're putting together like a read-alikes display, then you're showing off a service that the library can offer. You're saying, hey, look at these books I have, but look what my staff can help you do. Like, this is something we can do for you. So that's the importance of displays in libraries. And I didn't do my full introduction. So we're a 49 library consortium. We have 48 public libraries. So I am coming from that viewpoint. We have one academic library that doesn't use course reserves, which enabled me to do these sort of modifications without much upheaval. So benefits of displays, of course, they're going to increase your circulation and your usage. That's kind of the idea. You're pulling things out, showing them off, and hoping that somebody's going to grab it. You're highlighting your collections, and again, your services, things that maybe your community doesn't realize you do. So things like Reader's Advisory and ILL, that sort of thing. And then they supplement outreach and collaboration as well. So displays are a good tool to like integrate yourself with things going on in your community. So like if you've got a local event going on, you can make a display for that. And then you're kind of tying yourself and grounding yourself in the community. So there are, according to the literature and logic, 4 different types of displays. So in-house displays are those made up of materials from your collection that you've pulled out. This can be something that you've pulled out or like your new books. We're counting new book displays as well in our workflows. Pop-up displays are materials that you're taking out somewhere. So those are outreach. Like if you go to a farmer's market with your book bike or whatever, you've got that point of service opportunity. Another way of inserting yourself into the community. Online, this is sort of more speaking to you guys in the room because this is what we do with CoverFlow and those book sliders on our websites and things. So when I'm saying online, I'm talking about CoverFlow. And then provided is kind of a unique sort of thing where maybe you've got somebody in your community that has a rare teapot collection that they bring in, and then you're using that to kind of show off your own collection of books and things on the same topic. So how can Koha help? The main purpose of this is so that you can track those items, so that you're basically creating lists. But what lists don't do is the second part, which is the bulk updates for Circ staff, which is the sort of the magic behind this. So if you're putting all your items in a display, then they're getting tracked in that module. And when you put them in the display, you're changing things about the cataloging. So you can change the shelf location, you can change the collection code, you can change the item type, and it does like a temporary permanent relationship. So we don't really want our Circ staff going into the cataloging and changing that necessarily, because there's potential for errors, of course, but it makes more sense to have them kind of only affecting things this way. And I've locked that down further with some of the jQuery modifications I'll show you. Another like great aspect of this that's already built into course reserves is there's a column. It adds a column on the item details that says where it's at. So if you're using course reserves, it says what course it's in. So that was an easy thing to flip over to displays and say, hey, this display is in the front foyer on banned books, that sort of thing. So that was another major reason that we pushed forward with this and went ahead and put it into production. And then it's also helpful for staff, because so our traditional workflow was to just put it in like a shelf location that said display and that's it, or a shelf location that says new and that's it. When it comes up on the holds queue, we don't actually know which display it's in or where it's at. So they have to do some backtracking to figure out exactly where in the library it is. So since we're putting it in this display, it's picking up that information. It's picking up that it's in the foyer. So then I can pull that into the holds queue, and I can pull that into the check-in screen so that they can see where it needs to go and where to find it. And then another powerful aspect of this is that it creates queryable lists for cross promotion. So transforming that list of the list of in-house things in display into an online display is seamless because you're just running a report on the display and then feeding that out places. And there's power in that because, for example, on a new shelf, you can still have those new items kind of scrolling by on your new shelf, and people can see what you've got, even though it's not on the shelf. That's a big thing in our consortium, and like a struggle in our new item sharing setup is people don't want to share their new stuff because then their new shelf's empty, and then their board members come in and say, why aren't you buying new stuff? So to be able to like create a synchronous virtual display to put it alongside that new shelf is really helpful. So I've got a few screenshots, and they're probably going to be sort of hard to see on the screen, but I will share my presentation afterwards, of course. So this is what I was talking about, the findability over here on the far right. You can see this is the item detail. So when you go into the record and it lists all the holdings, you can see over here, it's telling you what display it's in, what library it's at, all that stuff. And then same thing on the OPAC. So staff and OPAC are there. The workflow, this doesn't illustrate it too well. But again, what you're doing in essence is doing bulk changes to the cataloging through the course reserves module or the displays module. So this is a screenshot from the actual, when you're looking in a display, it's going to tell you what's changed about it when you put it in that display. So for us, we're just changing the shelf location. So, and then the permanent location is listed in parentheses. And whenever I take it out of the display, it just reverts back to that cataloging. So that makes it so the circ staff doesn't have to touch the cataloging module at all. I don't have to give them those permissions. And then, as I was saying, it creates this synchronous sort of managed list that you can then use reports to feed out to places. So you could feed out to your cover flow from the list of books in the display. For us, I'm a little bit of a junkie with this library bookshelves plugin. I don't know if anybody else is using that, but it's great. It's set up for Koha, so you can feed in a report, and it does use local images as well. The developer was able to make that work. So all of our library websites have one of these little sliders. Right now, we're just generally feeding new book lists and via reports from Koha, but another thing that we're working on is sort of using displays to sync up the website with what's actually physically in person at the library. All right, so this is my working concept. It's a lot of jQuery, a little CSS. There's some SQL involved. In my resources slide, I have a link to my GitHub where you can go in and look at the code and harvest anything that you want, if you so choose. But again, I want to reemphasize that while this is great, it would be better if Koha could do it by itself, if it was its own thing. So, so the sort of first thing we had to do was identify how to transform course reserves into displays. And there's a lot of fields in course reserves that we don't need. We don't care about the teacher. We don't care about the number of students. So a lot of that stuff is hidden. There's some things that are required, and the worst of that is the term field, because it's also an authorized value list. So what I did was I switched department to type, and for type, we're calling it either a permanent display or a temporary display. So permanent would be the new bookshelf, temporary would be like a summer reading or banned books display or something, just to help kind of have that distinction and give us something to query in reports. The course number I changed to library because most of these decisions were made based on where that information displays. So in the detail, course number was in that column, so I changed that to library because I wanted that presented section was in that column, so I changed that to area of the library. Again, term, I went in and created the list of terms as my library codes, and then I'm pre-populating that by logged in library just to, like I was saying, I need to make this really easy for my end users, my staff users, so that they don't mess anything up, basically. I trust them, I really do, but like, if I can make it simple, then it should be simple. So both the library and that library authorized value are pre-populated. And then I just kept the staff note in case we needed that. And everything else is either hidden with the column settings in the administration area of Koha or via jQuery, or it's relabeled via jQuery. So again, kind of tiny screenshots, but you can get the gist of it. A lot of these are just relabeling things. So in the dropdown, we've changed course reserves to displays, and on the home page, course reserves to displays. This is the course-reserves.pl, which is like the landing page after you click that first link. So I changed to some success the name of the page that says display on the tab. That's not perfect. I changed the breadcrumbs. I changed the toolbar and the heading here from courses to displays. Also on the toolbar, I've added some buttons. So in addition to adding a new display and removing items from the display, which are both batch operations, or no, adding a new display is not a batch operation. Removing from the display is a batch operation. And I think it's been a minute, but I'm pretty sure that what I did was remove the option to do things individually. It was either to add or remove individually. I wanted all that to be bulk operation. And then I've got some reports here that I wrote primarily for tracking things in the new display so that my libraries can run those, see what's been on there a while, and go pull them off and get them to the right place. And then same page, the table of courses or displays, mostly just changed the table headers there so that they matched up with that table I showed before. The other sort of trick I did here was I pre-filtered the table based on the logged in library code so that so you can sort of see I've got my library is calling this new adult books, and I have 49 libraries that probably have new adult bookshelves. So I didn't want them to have the potential to go into the wrong one. So I pre-filtered that table based on their logged in library. So that's all that's showing when they pull up the page. This is when you actually go in to add a new display or course. Again, there's a lot of fields we don't use, so they're just hidden. This is where I'm going in and pre-filling that term field with the logged in library code. And I'm also pre-filling the library name right there. That's pulling down from the logged in library of the staff member. And then same thing, course details. We've hidden all those fields like instructor, student count, status, things we don't need to see. And then hid some of the buttons up here. This is what I was talking about before. So like there's add reserves and batch add reserves, and I didn't see any reason to keep that add reserves if we can add them in a batch. So got rid of that one, changed some of the wording up there. On the batch add items. So this is where it gets a little more flexible, I guess. So for us, we are just doing shelf location. Item type is unhidden because I had one library that needed it. But for shelving location, I've, again, simplified because I don't trust people, but I don't have trust issues. So I just wiped out all of the shelf locations in the dropdown and then repopulated it with just new and just display. So they only have two choices. And then everything else is hidden. Of course, you could do it like you could keep it if you want something on if you wanted. So there's flexibility there. Like We use shelf location for this sort of stuff. If you use collection code, that's obviously an option. There's some wording down below where you enter it that had some verbiage change. And then this is a new feature where you can add it by bib number. And that was just going to confuse my people. So I didn't get rid of it, but I did collapse it with this fancy little arrow that flips when you click it. I was pretty impressed with myself making things do that. So, and then on the remove, again, very basic, just changing breadcrumbs, changing the wording wherever it needs changed. Sorry, I brought this laser pointer just so that I could, and the people online aren't even getting to enjoy my laser pointing. Holds queue and check-in. So this one's probably a point of contention because Lucas has told me before not to use reports for this sort of thing. We should use the API, but I don't think I can use the API for this. So that's a bug I should file. Can I? That I know. So that's my last slide. My last slide is challenges, and those are all the bugs I need to file. Okay. So yeah, right now I'm using a report, and it just pulls this information in out of the course reserves table to the holds queue and to the check-in screen. And I think I might make the check-in screen a little more vibrant because I don't want people to miss that it's in a display and get it back to the shelf and then get all confused. More wording changes. So this is the record detail view. There's a little thing up there that refers to courses. So I changed that wording, and then we talked about that column already. The OPAC was really the lightest part of it. So this is my OPAC. So things are all wacky anyways. I've moved all these links up here. So I've added to my explore menu, and then breadcrumbs, table headings, etc. Again, breadcrumbs, table headings, etc. All right, so yeah, I'm almost back on time. Sorry for starting late, guys. The challenges. So this is the one that I need to file for Nick. If you get too many things in a display, it takes forever for them to load. So on the staff client, at least, I haven't actually tested on the OPAC, but like the new adult books display has over 100 items, and it takes several seconds to bring it up. And then, as I mentioned, no API routes, so that I have to use the forbidden tactics to pull that information. And then everything else, the main imperfection, again, being that I can't, this is a lie. I could make it so that community college still sees course reserves instead of displays, but that's a lot of work. I would rather have a displays module and a course reserves module. So that's what that would fix. And there are my resources. So again, the GitHub repository with all this code in it is that top one. I have sort of a user guide for my librarians in Google Docs. That's the second link. It's just a draft. I linked to Ed's presentation if you want to review that as well from 2018. And then the literature that I referred to at the beginning is linked there as well if you'd like to read more about exhibits and displays in libraries. So that's my presentation. Any questions?
Hi.
Hello.
This is like the most amazing thing. I'm at a single school. We don't have a lot of branches and all that kind of stuff. We do use our course reserves manual heavily because we have a lot of teachers that still do stuff like that. And my boss the other day said to me, he's like, I was looking for this book and I can't find it and it must be missing. And I said, no, it's on display. And she's like, well, why don't you have something that says it's on display? And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm going to KohanCon next week. Maybe we'll find something. So we would be really interested in figuring out how to do something like this in our library. I mean, it would really, to make it so much easier to change things, it would be awesome. So I'd love to see how this rolls out. And I don't have the coding skills that you all have, but I would love to figure out a way to get this for us. So just wanted to put that out there.
Sure. And I'm happy to help sort of talk about how I did it, but really it is just pasting most of what I have in there into your OPAC user JS or OPAC user CSS. The reports probably aren't going to work on your system because, again, I have weird, funky things going on. You might have to go in and change some things, but they're a good starting point.
There are no comments online. Well, actually, there are now. So let me read those first. Do the items remain in the display status until they're removed by staff, or would a check-in and check-out remove them from display?
No, yeah, so they stay until they're removed from the display. So it sticks.
The next comment is also I second having a displays module and will comment on your bug. And I got back later than you because you left the restaurant before I did, running as quickly as you could to get back here to start. But I don't know if it was mentioned, but this is there is a bug for add an on display module, and it's bug 12141.
Yep, I've got that big and bold in this at the start of my slide. So if anybody else is interested in this, please comment. If you want to pursue development, that's another thing that the SIGs do talk about a lot is developments and collaborating, pooling our money, that sort of thing.
And I would also add as one last thing, for those of you that are staying on Thursday and Friday and have never used Bugzilla, I would be happy at some point during those 2 days to sit down with you, help you create a Bugzilla account and show you to this bug so you can add your comments on it. So maybe we can get some more voices heard in the community to say that this is something we really want. I am in a similar boat to Jason that, you know, as soon as Ed did his talk about how to turn the course reserves module into a displays module, we had just added a community college that was so excited to have a course reserves module, and I got it all set up for course reserves for them, so I couldn't use it as display module.
So I'm not totally sure if this meets some of the requirement, but in 22.11, there is a piece of development coming in called collections or bundles that Martin's been working on, and it pulls together items into a bundle that you keep in the bundle and you can circulate as a bundle, and it indicates that it's in the bundle. And so you might want to have a look at that as well as an option that might work for physical stuff. Not necessarily for putting it up in carousels and things, but
sure, I'll take a look at that. Sounds interesting. Oh, I didn't mention, Christopher, I'm wearing my shark socks today, so we're gonna have to compare and see who's better.
Oh, by the way, I found a store around
I
few
wondered
blocks
who-
away that have my socks.
Oh, I thought you were gonna tell me you got me that shark Lego that mysteriously appeared over lunch. Whoever gave me that, thank you. I love you forever. All right, thanks.